Okay.
We're live.
We are going live, which is really fun. That's great. And I think Haley's going to give us the link.
David, always copy streaming link.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Got it here. Thank you. Super fun to be live. I'm just going to copy this. Haley, could you chuck that into our Slack as well? Just want to make sure it's not copying from me here.
Okay, I've got it. I'll ping it to you, Adam.
Cool. I got it here.
Oh, yeah, no, you got it.
Yeah. All good. Okay, I'm just going to stick it into Twitter here. So there we go. And I'm going to put it into our groups so people can come and say hello. Fantastic. Cool. All right. So let's get that up as well. David and I are here for another live AMA session, which is really fun, on a big night here, which is also really fun. So if you are watching and have some questions, please stick your questions into the YouTube channel. David, how are you doing this morning? It always looks so bright and beautiful where you are. Is it like that the entire time?
I know. It is bright and beautiful today. Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. It's an exciting day.
It is an exciting day. Why is it exciting? Because after 3 years of putting this together, we are launching IOEN and the IOEN token, which is going to be out in the wild within the next 3 hours or so, which is pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So it's been a big journey to get here to do it, right? So
and for those of you watching, launching a token isn't as easy as it looks. but let's just go with the swan analogy or the duck analogy, and every it's a very exciting day. It's just the start.
It's just the start. It's like, yeah, that's a really good point. It's like, it's not as easy as it looks, because everyone's like, oh, these crypto tokens, just make one and off you go. It's like, it's just like, there you go. It's a crypto token. It's like, wow, it's 100% not what it's like. It's actually, it's really interesting because, you know, it's also, you know, we're really pretty mature. Like it's not super early days. So super early days of where the whole industry's going to go. It's not super early days. It's been happening for a while, but now when you're doing it, you're building something real, and that's what's really exciting. It's also about the bit that says, well, like anything you're doing that's big and new and blazing, it just takes this real pain, and you have to get over lots of problems and hurdles to do it. So, and I'm sure we are going to have lots of more problems and hurdles to get over, which is just the normal course of doing stuff. So. Yeah, it's really great, but it is amazing to be here after three years or so. It's amazing to have you with us as well, David, and we get to have our little communications channel, which is fun. So we're going to wait for some questions to come in on the AMA channel, and you've got a few people popping in. Hello, David and Adam, nice having you guys inside of IOEN. Thank you very much. I guess a way to start off, I guess, really could be. The call to action would be, guys, if you're watching and you're interested in what we're doing here, jump into our Telegram group. I'll ask Haley to paste all the links into the Telegram group right now, into the YouTube channel. Jump into our Telegram group, follow us on Twitter. And I guess the big exciting news is that we are going to be going live on QuickSwap at 1 p.m. UTC. So that's pretty exciting. So please jump in and come along for the ride and see where we go. It'll be really cool. I've got some amazing news for Holochain friends as well that I will release in a few hours when we get there at around about just after 1 p.m. UTC. Some really fun stuff for everyone in the Holochain community around what's happening with IOEN and what you can be doing in a few hours' time that will really excite you, I think. So yeah, a little bit of a teaser there for that one. So David, Yeah. So what do we want to talk about today? I think there was a few things on my mind, but what have you got in your mind that you wanted to cover that the Holochain community really wants to understand and know more about?
Yeah, I think from a holochain perspective, um, well, I really feel like I feel like we need to sort of go back into an ecosystem session and
Yeah.
drop a bit deeper into product. Um, but I guess and we covered a little bit of this last week, but I guess from a holochain perspective, first of all, it's do you know what? I think let's jump zoom out a second. Like I know that the ION's been released on TrustPad and TrustSwap, the IDO
That's right.
that's happened over the
That's
last couple of
happened.
days. Yep.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
And both sold out.
That's right. Yeah, they both sold out. Yeah, really good demand. Really fantastic. Great
Yeah.
responses.
Yeah, and I think like what I've heard behind the scenes is both of the launch pads were actually very impressed and excited about the amount of demand.
Yeah, they were, which was really nice messages to get through on Telegram. Yeah, they were really excited. They were really, I'm really pleased just coming back. Like, this is great demand, sending us statistics, like really fantastic. Yeah, really happy with them.
Yeah, so I think what we're hearing, because there has been a 2017, 2018, 2019 wave of a few sort of blockchain based energy projects. And I think like one of the things that we know in the world outside the blockchain space is energy challenges are real. Energy solutions on many, many levels are coming rapidly. And I think like if we go back to like what ION stands for, the concept of the capacity to be able to create software defined grids and then scale up from devices to grids into this Internet of Energy network is something that's really resonating with people. And I think like that to me is a huge validation, because if it went as like another blockchain energy project, you'd expect that actually the demand would be pretty muted. But I think like one thing I just wanted to share a little bit, this isn't really a question, to share and then get your reflections, is I think with ION, what we are really doing at this stage is it is really introducing a new category of energy project into the blockchain space and into the decentralized ecosystem, into the holochain space as well. So I don't know if you've had any thoughts or reflections on that based on the conversations over the last couple of months, but that's very exciting to me, just how the opportunity seems to be opening up right now.
It's a wonderful reflection, actually. I think you're right, David. It's so, yeah, it really feels like that in so many ways. And we've been hearing this for quite a while around, like we hear this from when we built RedGrid and we were delivering some of the early stages parts of the technology we've got at ION now, is like, you guys aren't this and you aren't that. You're kind of building something that's totally new, that is a category. And it's taken me a little while to get my head around that, because you always, when you're trying to build something, you're always like, well, are we going to be like these guys? Are we going to be like these guys? And actually, you kind of end up being somewhere in the middle. And you think, well, actually, what we're doing here is we're not just adding a widget. We're building an infrastructure system that forms a category. And the reason it forms a category is exactly as you're right, because it brings blockchain energy together in a new way that isn't just about, hey, here's a massive macro system that you're going to plonk down on people. It's about what we found that resonated with people a lot is, what do I need to do to be involved with this? Like, do I have to sign up to my government, or do I have to sign up to this big thing? And the answer is no. You just buy a little bit of ION and you start participating small, like a little bit by little bit. And that network, that virtual microgrid, grows organically from those individual nodes. And I think that's the thing that people have really kind of like got hold of now and said, look, it's different. It's not a big like massive infrastructure play as in like you've got to go to one person and one group controls it and then they implement it. It's a bunch of people implementing what they feel is right for them. And the infrastructure play is the software defined grid that lets those things talk to each other. And I think that's the bit that's, you're right, getting the support from people and people wanting to buy into it and be part of it, is because they've seen this as we're building an open source category where people can build on top of it. And the challenge that we've seen so far is that lots of the stuff has either been too complicated or too expensive or too locked away for people to build on. And I think that's the bit that we've seen real I mean, we get lots of questions from people in the chat, get questions on Telegram, lots of questions around what do I need to do to participate? And that's been the question that's been resonating to people, and they just jumping in. So yeah, I think that the category is so important because categories create value, and it lets a lot of other people build on it. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful reflection. It feels super surreal as well.
Yeah,
we sit there and we're trying to come up with this stuff, and we're like, but what if we could connect that to that? And what if we had this other bit of value over here that people could get involved? What if we could turn demand response into a battle royale for like the person who could get their devices to do the most work together to save the grid at that point in time? What would that look like for someone? And I remember like a year and a half ago, doing a workout in the middle of lockdown in my back garden, trying to like survive lockdown. And this thing came to me, was like, what if we could make this whole thing of the internet eventually like Fortnite? And and I remember thinking you, and you were like, yeah, what if we could do that? It would just be awesome. So it's like, there's so much stuff.
I don't know if it's gone out on a Medium, but yeah, post or anything like that. But there's an awesome slide in the pitch deck, which is like imagine Fortnite for energy. And if you think about the growth of play to earn, etc., and the play to earn space growing both in game, but even more interestingly, the economic system sprawling out outside the game. That's exactly like what we're seeing really early days in play to earn is exactly what's going to happen with ION. So it's pretty exciting. And I think for the Holochain crowd, a couple of people, where my James Ray posting here, Holochain is the future, not another blockchain based energy project. I'm feeling energized, energy for all, etc. Then exactly as James is saying, and Adam, maybe you want to comment on this a little bit, but what you start to be able to do by sort of extending the perspective of blockchain space and then moving into Holochain style tooling is actually make these kind of promises of things like software grids real in a decentralized way. So I don't know if there's anything you want to comment on there, and then I'll jump into, I'm going to hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions.
Yeah, cool. I think it's absolutely right. The Holochain part is so important because it is that's a whole new category as well, and that enables new categories to be built on top of it. So I think that is absolutely right, James. And we've been, as you guys know, and we've been with Holochain since the beginning, and we firmly believe it's a fantastic piece of technology to work to make this happen. So yeah, it gives us so much more flexibility to do things in so much more of a streamlined and imaginative way, rather than just another blockchain energy project. I mean, there's lots of great blockchain energy projects, which is awesome. That's fantastic. But this is different because it's explicitly using those different layers. So yeah, it's a great question. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Okay, so here we go. Alisha, ION partnerships, please.
Yeah, fantastic. So we put out some partnerships already. So Unbound Finance, Polka Locker, some really great groups in the DeFi space. We've got a few more coming down the line. We will be announcing these partnerships in the next few weeks. So we've been in lots of conversations. We've been signing up partnerships both in DeFi and then in the real energy world as well. So some really interesting electric mobility organizations we're in conversation with at the moment as well, for really cool ways of engaging people and using. I mean, there's small amounts of electricity, but you can use small amounts of electricity at home. You can save, turn it into IOEC credits, and then use them to pay for your electric mobility. That's where we see things really expanding. So for partnerships for us, it's, we're building the substrate. So we want people to kind of build on top of it and come to us with ideas of how we could incorporate that together. And I think essentially what we're doing is building an energy currency that has value, that will start in those kind of the usual suspects who are working on energy, and integrating with them. Fantastic. There's going to be a bunch of others who come and going, cool, we believe in the mission, let's partner with that as well. So that will be revealed as we go through the next few weeks. We've got a bunch under our belts already. I can see them in our calendar. I just want to tell you all at the same time right now, because we've got something really exciting happening today, which is listing. But lots to come on that. I think what we're really asking for here is if people in the Holochain community know others who would like to partner with us and do things with us, please reach out. Like, we're super open to doing that. That's the whole point of building.
Yeah, and definitely expanding the concept. How that's the power of the software grid is, that it's There's so many, as Adam was saying, it could be a DeFi application, it could be games, it could be, ways of, it could be at the hardware, the IoT device level, all sorts of things. I think, like, again, one of the most exciting things, it's always in the case in these kind of blue sky fields, but especially in the energy space, is the ability to then bring the rest of the world into the energy space. It's really, really exciting what can start to get plugged in, thinking of energy as software rather than just, this massive green, clean or unclean infrastructure that's sort of untouchable and not part of our lives.
Yeah, that's it. Energy as software, and that's exactly right, because it is that part of it, how things intersect. We never would have understood what mobile phones could do until the software came along that made them able to do the things with the hardware that was never thought of. So yeah, agreed. Fantastic.
Cool. So Toolbo Willie is asking, if Holo hosting isn't being used, where is all of this IoT data being stored?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're not using full Holo hosting right now because, of course, it's still being built as well. So we're on a spectrum, and you've seen with with the call that the talk that David and we had our last chat, also the chat with Art. It's on a spectrum. So we've got our Holochain agents flashed into devices. That's working. That's really good. But for its scale right now, we're still using some cloud support. That's absolutely fine as well. But ultimately, yeah, it's absolutely on the roadmap, which will be released on Monday. Talking through how we're going to be working on and bringing in together Holoports and the way that Holochain and Holo as a hosting service will be used in this, because ultimately that's the fantastic partner, because it's the mimicking the decentralization of seen energy. We've seen the decentralization distribution of hosting. So right now, yeah, we are using some cloud hosting because we have to work with the reality of what we've got right now, but it's on the roadmap to move further and further, decentralized further and further into the machines at the edge.
Okay. Actually, while we're on partnerships, James Ray has jumped into the chat and said, I think you should talk to my team at Symbol. We have customers who would appreciate what ION can do. So
love it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Let's definitely do that, James, because we're in the same part of the world as well. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got a question here from The Eagle Flies Alone, Adam.
Great. Yes, hello from our channel as well.
Yeah, so how can cities use ION's solution to reach their smart city target? Will you have will you have any partnerships regarding this in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, smart cities have been on the agenda since the beginning for us. The chair of our advisory board at RedGrid helped set up smart cities in the city of Melbourne and is an international consultant of smart cities. So she's an absolute legend in this area. We have, through ION, we've got some fantastic supporters based out in the Middle East who are connected into some of the world's greatest smart cities that are emerging there and the smart city ecosystems. So for ION Tech, it's similar to the way we see it as being similar to basically, as David said before, the software-defined grid, the digital infrastructure that sits within the city and enables all those different components of the city that use, produce, or store electricity to understand and work with each other. So essentially, it becomes a software layer that becomes infrastructure within the city. So you could imagine, for example, my home or my apartment is plugged into the Internet of Energy. There's some optimization happening in my home according to how the grid wants to work. I'm getting credits because I'm a good actor. Those credits can then be used when I go downstairs and I jump onto the electric transport system, be that like a self-driving car, or even someone else driving, or me driving my own car that's electric. I don't have an electric car right now, but that's coming down the line. But the idea here is that you get in and you use this credit to pay for those services that you have within that smart city. And so it becomes like a telephone credit, or like, we have on public transport systems, you've got those cards like Oyster Card in London. So you just top it up and off you go. And so that's the idea. And the ION credit becomes an interchangeable credit with those other cryptocurrency and other credits that are coming in the system, and becomes a store of value that you can then use and expend, because then that other entity that uses that credit can go and then use it, expend it elsewhere, either for their electricity at their home or electricity in their business, or some other form of transaction that can take place. So, and the way that happens is with a smart city is you work with a smart city, you start working out a scope of work, you work out what kind of infrastructure they've got, and we just start to embed agents or embed through APIs at the beginning to enable those agents to understand each other and start to coordinate. So we're super excited about those kind of opportunities coming down the line. And yes, absolutely, partnerships with smart cities. We are, where those discussions are happening right now. We are really happy to hear any other partners who want to come along and figure out how to do it together.
Okay, let's go into practical stuff today. So what is the listing time?
The listing time is 1 p.m. UTC. So that's for QuickSwap.
Okay, fantastic. And just for people who don't know, so QuickSwap is on which blockchain network?
That's on Polygon.
That's on the Polygon network. 1 p.m. UTC. And what time does that make it in where you are in Australia?
It makes it about midnight.
Okay, excellent. So I assume you'll be hearing how the launch went when you wake up in the morning?
I don't know if we'll be going to sleep tonight. I think that's the reality of the situation. Look, I think we're going to be up for a long time this evening. We're really excited about what's going on. So we're all about that. We've got a distributed team doing some fantastic distributed work. So we're all going to be up watching and waiting and helping and supporting. So 1 p.m. UTC.
Okay, so let's go into staking, because while I like the ION token name, a great name, the Scion token or the staked ION is, I just saw it and it's a thing of beauty. So Anti has asked, if I understand correctly, TrustSwap will airdrop, or people who've participated in Launchpad will get airdropped S-ION or staked ION tokens, which they can either stake or convert to ION. Is that correct?
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant question. So Scion, S-ION, is the stakeable ION. And what that means is the Scion's actually, there's a nice play on word, right? We're ION, but we're also Scion. So Scion is a young shoot or twig of a plant. So like an emerging thing, which is really, really cool, or the descendant of a notable family. So you could take either of those picks if you want for Scion. But for the S-ION, if you participated in the TrustSwap or the TrustPad launchpads, you'll be dropped your tokens. Those tokens are arriving very shortly, and they're S-ION tokens. Now, those S-ION tokens, all you need to do is take them to the ION website. And it's the website for this is ido.ioen.tech. It's on our main page as well. So you go there, and what it means is you get those tokens, those stakeable ION tokens, you can then take and stake immediately for 100% APY for 3 months. And so what it means is you turn up to the website, you've got your stakeable ION tokens. You can say, great, I'd like to stake this. You just connect your lit to it, and does it all really well and easily. You stake them, they go into the system, they're staked for 3 months, you get a guaranteed 100% APY. And what's important about that is that we are so 100% focused on the community that we want to build and the utility value of token as it goes forward. Essentially what you're doing is you're starting the beginning parts of staking towards the tiered discounts that are coming for developing and enabling the virtual microgrids in the future. So jumping through, and what that means is, so you come through the website and you can just stake those and they can go in. If you don't want to stake it, there's the option to unlock 30% of those tokens. So you can then take them off and do something else with them if you want. But we're really hoping people are really interested in staking them, because that builds the community, it builds the token. But what's really important there is that there's a whole bunch of other benefits that we can do and we can provide. So everyone who takes their tokens from TrustPad and TrustSwap, if you were lucky enough to get in the allocation because they're oversubscribed, but if you got your tokens, go to the ION website, stake them. You'll get the 100% APY, but you'll also get access to a bunch of NFTs with some really cool things like your name and the metadata. There's a whole bunch of exclusive swag. You can get a merchandise and a bunch of fun stuff, right? And if you know anything about RedGrid and what we've done in building this, and you know anything about us as a team, we're kind of interested in doing some, super fun stuff that exists with the project. So there's some really fun things in there. We've already talked about Fortnite things, but NFTs, merchandise. There's going to be a bunch of forums that we're going to have with those exclusive early supporters who are staking their ION, because you guys are the foundation of building it. So really excited about that. And it's done with Kaizen Finance, who are our partners, and they're just amazing. Really, really great.
Yeah. I've seen some of it firsthand. It's phenomenal work that you guys are doing together.
They're really good. Yeah, fantastic. So thanks for asking about the staking. It's a kind of new thing, right? So, we it's not new in terms of what we want to do with it, but we've been looking at this and putting it together, and we sort of said, right, okay, let's actually make this happen, and we want to make it happen as soon as possible for people. So rather than like, hey, here's your token, and then you wait like another couple of months, and maybe there's a staking thing coming. We're like, you know what? Let's just do it now. And so when you actually get your tokens, you can stake them straight away and not have to wait around. Straight away. It means we haven't slept for a while, but other than that, it's awesome.
Awesome. Okay. James is back. What are your plans for rolling out community scale batteries? I heard you were launching a trial program.
Yeah, thanks, James. So we, I've had some emails ping through to me today. I think one said contract signed, but I haven't had a chance to look at my email all day. So we've got this initial program going out, which is looking at community batteries in out of the east of the city, and basically is looking at how can we use IOEN as the system that enables the community, the houses and the devices in those houses to interact with each other and interact with the community battery that sits at the end of the road. So what's important about this is it's setting up the system that enables people to understand and play with this really easily, organically. So it's not saying these 10 houses get it and those 10 don't. It's about saying this one house can be part of it, so can that one, so can that one. Or this one wants to join next week. That's totally cool. They can join too. Or the one over there wants to join, fantastic. How do they join? And so it's basically the piece of work we're doing, which is government funded, is looking at how can we create this sort of fabric where people can join really easily and then optimize themselves with that battery in the very best way to get the most clean, green, cheap electricity as possible. So nice. Yeah, love it. And we're so keen to hear about more opportunities than that. So we think neighborhood battery is going to be huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, what is the go-to-market strategy from Tel Wilcox to attack government acceptance to work with their grids?
Yeah, right. Okay, so to attack government acceptance to work with their grids. Okay, so governments don't want to work with their grids. Yeah, well, I think our strategy here is that we talked a bit about this last time, right, David, with that kind of expansion of innovation and contraction around kind of government and nationalization of industries and expansion again. Yep. I think we're in that kind of that expansion phase right now. And so for governments, they're trying to figure out how to, firstly, governments who still own their grids are trying to figure out how to make it work and to be customer centric. And secondly, places that privatize their grids, much of the world, they're trying to work out how can they be innovative and take advantage, or not take advantage, but also just like survive the influx of distributed energy resources, which is basically making the grid super unstable. So, and also relate to their customers. So for us, our go-to-market strategy is build out something that people love. So individuals, families, consumers, people have got an app that they love that shows them what the energy they're using, how they can share their energy, how they can share energy value when it's green, all that kind of stuff that we've already got running. Get them really excited about what they can be part of, and then integrate this with smart appliances in the home. So different manufacturers who make the smart appliances, and then you've got a kind of interacting grid that's sort of happening already. And then you can talk to the energy players, which we're doing, and they say, oh, great, you've got a bunch of people who are doing this already, or we can see how you're being super customer centric. Now we want to help you kind of do that. So you kind of, at the same time as you're talking to these big companies, you're also providing something that everybody or people love. And then what happens is they kind of just come to the middle. And that's the best place to be, because otherwise you've got someone from the top telling everyone else what to do, or you've got a bunch of disaggregated stuff at the bottom that no one knows how to coordinate. And so if you can coordinate this and help the people at the top go, okay, I get where you guys are going, let's make something work, that's the best way of doing it. That's our go-to-market strategy.
Gotcha. Okay, amazing. I'm just trying to, the idea of it being an energy project makes it amazing. Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if there's anything on Twitter here.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, here we go. Well, there's also the piece from October that Paul Doust wrote, right, on Grid, how Red Grid. Let me go. Red Grid carbon neutral by 2030.
Yes.
So you tell me a little bit more about here. Let me just share my. Just tell me a little bit more about this article and how it went down, Adam. And I'm going to jump and see if there's any comments here that are worth
Thank you.
pulling out.
Yeah. So Paul does this amazing writing for Holochain and Holo, and so we've been working, working with David, working with Art, working with Paul and the whole team at Holochain for a while now, and obviously like doing ecosystem sessions and getting out projects and getting out articles. But what was really cool about what Paul was looking at here is trying to figure out, okay, what is it that we can do that drives us towards this kind of net zero carbon future that is bigger than just a bunch of hefty technologies put in? What is it that we can do that is fundamentally at the software level that's enabling things to work differently? And I just love the way that Paul was talking about this as a kind of like coordination problem. Like, how do you coordinate this stuff? And if you look at lots of, like, if you look at basic, like a lot of like history and society, economics, environmental protection, social welfare, a bunch of that stuff is a coordination problem. Like, people want to do something, they just don't know how to quite make it work and put it together. I think that's what Paul's really trying to get at here, and that obviously works so well with Holochain and Holo. And he came at it like after this kind of crazy year of crazy weather systems, and we've seen like insane weather. When you work in climate change, you start to see all this stuff quite more clearly, and also more bluntly, and also more like kind of cataclysmically, and then also more hopefully. And that's kind of this sort of schizophrenic approach that sort of starts to happen when we're working something like climate change. I've worked for 20 years. Every now and then you're like, oh, well, what are we going to do? This is impossible. Like, look at the science now; it's still getting worse. And then something else happens. You have a breakthrough with your work. You have a breakthrough with the people you're working with, or a partnership comes in. Like, oh my god! Like, there's all this people that can do this and make it coordinate well. That's what we need to do. And so, I think this article that Paul pulled together was really great about, hey, we know that the science is in on climate change. We know that we have a world that's highly inequitable. We know that the gap is getting bigger between the haves and the have-nots. And we know that we're going to have this energy transition in the next 10 years. And so how do we pull all that together and try and build something that is fundamentally drives to net zero carbon emissions, so we can really start to deal with the climate change issue? How can it really address equity? Because if we have an unequal world, in the biggest sense of the word and the smallest sense, inequality between genders and races and quality countries, all that kind of stuff, we always end up with a disparity, and always something gets screwed up in the middle. So we try and you have to aim for that equality. And the final bit, Paul's part around, how do we get through the transition, is exactly right. And governments everywhere around the world are scratching their heads around what does this transition look like. I remember a scientist back in the UK I was working with, and he said, it's just like riding your bike up a hill. We got these steep emissions reductions we got to get down. If we can do it like gradually, but start right now and get our emissions reduction down, that's okay. It's much easier. But if we got to do a steep drop in emissions, that is a tough hill to climb. And that's what we're going to worry about. And that's why coordinating, using Holochain, using IOEN, pulling something together to make those tiny incremental changes at the edge, aggregate them, enable people to be part of that. That changes the steepness of the curve, because we start to ramp it down faster.
Yep.
And so that was a long-winded way of saying, I think it's an awesome article. You guys, we should stick it in the YouTube channel, so you guys can read it. It's a brilliant article.
Yeah.
I'll stick it there now. So yeah, really, really good. So loved it. And so that's, I think for us, that made a lot of sense. And we've talked about this a lot, like our philosophies on how we think the world should be and how we can use technology to build that's where we've come from. Technology is the tool.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to go from the bottom here. Raina Schmidt said, do you have any producers of smart plugs for Holochain capability for the EU market?
Yeah, excellent. So we work with some producers of smart plugs that ship globally. We have focused on Australia to start with, of course, because we just need to make it work here to know exactly what's going on. But yeah, absolutely. This is part of the roadmap. So working through IOEN is an international organization, essentially. Red Grid's focused on Australia right now, but IOEN is looking at those partnerships. And yes, absolutely, we'll be going through a hiring process as well. We've already got people applying to the positions that have open, that's exactly to build out those partnerships and integrate with those technologies. So essentially, the technology we integrate with can be replaced with a European plug and can run. So that's absolutely fine. It's just that we haven't tested it and run it in Europe just as yet.
Cool. Okay. And is there any cost indication per household in part hardware and devices and all of those kind of things?
Yeah, so initially it's how we're running it is, the easiest, cheapest way in is the first way in is just a mobile app on your phone with your ION in it, so you can just see and get some information around what you can do to behavioral changes. The next one is get a couple of plugs. Each plug is about it's about $7 US. So they're pretty cheap. Just stick those plugs on a dryer, or a washing machine, or a dishwasher, and just start to participate in the system. And then we think for a house, to be honest, we don't think you need many more than about 8 plugs. Ultimately, right now we're working with one of our pilot projects, which is to get it in behind the walls. So we'd have probably 16 electrical outlets in the house that have our agent embedded behind it. And so anything you plug in there, it starts to read the signal and starts to understand how it can coordinate. One of the key bits is smart metering. So we've got partnerships with people who do smart meters. And obviously smart metering isn't universal yet, but it's getting cheaper and easier all the time. And there's loads of people who make smart meters all over the world. And this is one of the biggest things for ION, is that, we can stack up the cost in Australia to set your house up completely to run all this stuff, to have like the fully fledged part is probably about $400 Australian. So it's a bit less than that. So probably 300 US. But the savings you can get from that in terms of 40% per device, and then participate in network events, can come back a lot faster than that. So you start to pay it off really quickly. So that's the difference between having that and a $8,000 to $10,000 or $15,000 battery, or a $7,000 or $8,000 solar system. So you don't have to have those things. You have much smaller devices, and it's modular. You can just build it up or have it as small as you really want. So that's the bit that we think is really important. And for ION, we are super interested in those conversations with the hardware providers who want to just be certified. Hey, we would love to use ION as the software that enables these things to talk together. Great, we just certify it and verify it, off it goes. So Europe is a definite target.
Okay, I'm aware of time. We've got, I think I've got 3 or 4 more questions, and then I want to finish with it. So Nathan Waters, so I'll just crank through these questions, Adam, and then we'll just finish with a call to action again. Nathan was asking why only 2% of tokens going to the public sale. Holo was 75%. Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing something. That's absolutely right. So the reason we have a relatively small amount go to the public sale right now is that we have locked into our contracts a whole bunch of tokens that are focused on community discounts. So what those community discounts are incentives to enable us to bootstrap the network. If you've read the white paper, one of the key innovations we've got in the white paper is the proof of balance, which is the idea that you can have a number of Holochain agents that understand each other, or our agents working together, and they can witness and understand the proof of balance between 2 different devices. And if you're holding and hosting a validation node like that, not a blockchain node that's got a whole bunch of transactions on it, but a validation node that's in the IOEC system, you can get paid through that from the community discounts. So we've locked up a lot of those community discounts because they're going to be for bootstrapping the network. I guess that's the clearest, easiest answer.
Yeah. I think also it's such a different world from 20 wherever that was, 2018. Different world, different project, different approach. But it's a great question. I think the fundamental is there are many, as you're saying, Adam, there are many ways in getting tokens in the hands of community.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
I think
that's all locked investing contracts that happen over time to enable those community discounts to come out and fund bootstrap the network. But it's a really different world to 2018.
Okay, so James is going for it. Okay, so it looks like you're just, James, I'm going to go through a couple of your questions and then get the last word from Adam. So it looks like you're just planning on focusing on energy. How hard do you think it would be to adapt ION for emissions offsets for abatement and sequestration projects, as well as incentivizing positive actions around other environmental impacts? Obviously, it could be quite complex and these could be separate projects, but maybe it could be easier to adapt for those applications using ION, taking advantage of composability with the open source Holochain ecosystem.
Love it. Fantastic, James. That's awesome. So that's really close to my heart. So my PhD's in carbon offsets and how do you make those things happen? So, and do it the right way. So absolutely. We see, and we're in conversation with a number of different groups working on carbon and blockchain solutions, all doing different things, offsets, different kinds of tracking of energy in the system. Some great Australian companies doing this as well that we're in conversation with partnering with. So we see this as the ability of those things to start to understand each other, and micro ledgering, like the micro transactions that happen here, and they can aggregate it up. So it could be an offset, it could be any of those, it could be in any of those environmental commodities that can be pushed through an IoT device, essentially. And so in terms of building on and taking advantage of the compatibility and composability with Holochain, yeah, we see it as the same sort of thing. We can start to plug and play different things together.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Rainer, validation node, could this be a Holoport? And Airnova, exactly what I thought. Rainer?
Yes. And the answer is yes, it could be. Exactly. So as long as the Holoport is we can configure the Holoport to understand what's happening around it in terms of those energy signals. Yes, we can use that as a validation node. Ideally, what we have is, in an ideal world, we would have our code in all of the hardware, especially the energy producing, consuming, and storing devices, and they validate each other. And the reason that's important is because you've got an immutable understanding of where that data is, rather than having it go through APIs. Right now, it's going through APIs, which is totally fine, just because we've got to get the system up and running. But ultimately, it'll be in, just like the Holoport is, it'll be in those devices, and those devices will validate each other.
Awesome.
Yes.
Dimton, I'm just going, when a Holochain ecosystem launching, it's already happening. You can see ION's got its IDO today, or token launch today. But if you start to get a bit more deeper involved, what you'll start to see is people are building all sorts of applications already on Holochain. And because Holochain isn't a blockchain platform, or isn't a platform, there's no mainnet for Holochain. It's like you can be building applications now. You can be playing now. I'm running chess and chat, and I think Kazuna actually on my Holoport at the moment, and doing all sorts of other things with people in Holochain networks. So it's a different paradigm. It's a different world. It's like saying, when is the blockchain ecosystem launching? In blockchain, there's no one single blockchain. Right, and it's the same thing. There is no one Holochain, so it's launched. And is it your intention? This is back to you, Adam. Is it your intention to convert all infrastructure to Holochain and Holo network?
Look, it's not my intention to convert all infrastructure to Holochain and Holo network, because it's not up to me to decide that. I think what we wanted, but it's a really good question, right? Because we're saying here's a really big advantage that you can have with Holochain. My intention is to develop the product that people find really useful, that achieves our mission that we are set up to achieve, which is net zero by 2030, and more clean energy for more and more people that's affordable and reliable. And so if we can do that, and our system with Holochain enables that to happen in the very best, easiest way possible, which we believe it does, other people will pick it up and it will spread through the system. And as David said then, we don't have control of that ecosystem. The ecosystem will build on top of it. And so we're excited to see that happen. And you know what? I would be incredibly happy to look back in 20 years' time and look back and see this and go, wow, we built this thing that other people then took and ran with, and it became all these different things that are amazing, and it's worked, and it's driven ourselves down to a net zero carbon emissions, and we've got a much safer climate. I will be over the moon if that happens. If that means all the infrastructure runs on it, on Holochain and ION, fantastic. Doesn't have to, but if it gets us towards the goal, wonderful. That's what we need to go for.
All right. Okay, Tel's got a final question. And Airnova, thank you. Yeah, Acon, a series of other things have launched as well. And then we've got some Holo and Turkish flags as well. But Tel has got IoT is massive for companies. How are you going to protect your IP?
Yeah, so for ION, like this is an open source protocol, so people can take it and build on it. That's totally fine. We're building the substrate here, like the TCP/IP for energy, essentially. So that's great. Take it, use it, do things with it. For RedGrid, it's a for-profit company. There's IP, lots of really great IP held in there that our investors are interested in, that our clients are interested in. That's totally cool. They're separate organizations. So for ION, we're launching this. The token bootstraps the network. People can build on it. Fantastic. It's very much like Holochain. For what we're doing with RedGrid, this is a for-profit entity that will then commercialize its IP and work with IoT device companies to commercialize that together and do joint ventures. So they're kind of two different things. And so what we have with RedGrid is, we have like a fantastic COO at RedGrid, is a former senior executive at one of the largest electricity technology companies in the world, and understands how to pull this stuff together. So we just focus on, let's build great technology and deliver great technology. At RedGrid and at ION, we're building great technology and delivering great technology. It's open source. And ultimately, those things sit together. And if you've ever seen any of our pitches, you will see a very classic diagram that we probably drew on Keynote about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that's got like, here's the RedGrid stack, and here's the Internet of Energy stack. This is the open source bit, and here's the stuff we build on top. And people are like, yeah, cool. That seems to make sense. Let's go.
Okay, final, yes. Final, oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
All the questions are coming in now. Guys, we've only got a couple more minutes. What brought about the name of your project that inspired it? Like, problems are solving, go to the website, go to Telegram, ask other people. Plans for token holders, the same thing. The ION token in ERC20, and why not developing a token on Holochain? Again, read the website, go through everything. You'll understand the Holochain mutual credit currency system and all the power and thought that's gone into that over the last couple of years. But what brought about the name of your project and what inspired it? That's a nice way. And guys, I'm not looking at YouTube anymore. It's officially closed. Amazing questions. Cool. Thank you, everyone. So that's amazing the last questions. Amazing questions. Leave that, and then we'll have a final word, and then I guess we'll catch up in the next few weeks for an ecosystem session or whatever, and track how things are going.
Thanks, David. And that's a great question. Where did the name come from? So I'm going to give a huge shout out to to my co-founder and CTO, Simon Wilson, who is an amazing technologist and an incredible thinker in this space. And we were working through this stuff and trying to figure out what we're going to do. And we're trying to say, what's the analogy like? Is the analogy like the mobile phone? Is the analogy like some other stuff? And he was like, well, I think it's like the internet. It's almost like it's an internet of energy. And I was like, oh wow, Simon, okay, let's talk about this some more. And he took me through the history of the internet. And I was come on, if we're in this space, we're all geeks, right? We know we're just sitting on our computers when we're 9 years old trying to program and do things. And I was like, I loved all that kind of stuff. And take me through it. And he just took me through how the development of TCP/IP came about. And for us, that made so much sense to have this open source transport protocol that enables things to understand each other. And that's what our Internet of Information runs on today. And we just said, right, let's build that for energy. And then we started to get into DAOs and how that whole thing works. We're like, well, this isn't an organization anymore. It's a network. It's a network of these decisions being made in the network. And so ultimately, we hope Internet of Energy Network will become a DAO. That's the plan for it. And stakers and people who hold the Internet of Energy token will have a governance stake in that. And that's where the name came from. And it also, you're trying to think of a name, and people like IOEN. IOEN is like, is that like a person's name? Or like, just call it ION. And ION makes sense, right? Because it's the positive charge in an atom. And so we're like, great, let's do that.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, you've done a great job. Must be very proud to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm really proud to be here. Thank you, David. You've been with us for so long, and you're so integrated part of this journey as well. So thank you, Matt, for being with us. You've brought so many amazing people into our sphere to make this happen, and we're just so glad to be here. So it's an exciting time. Brilliant.
Any last words for the community? Anything else we didn't cover?
Yeah, look, I think the only thing for the community is we promised this for a long time. Like, we talked about this for a long time, and now it's actually here, and it's happening within the next 2 hours. And so that's really exciting. So please jump into our Telegram channel. All the details for the listing later will be put on there. We'll be listing in 2 hours time at 1 p.m. UTC on QuickSwap. Jump in there, grab some ION tokens if you want to grab some. And we've got this great staking stuff happening. So it's kind of like all the pieces of the puzzle are kind of coming together really nicely. It's really complex pulling these things together. So sometimes things happen at the last minute. Sometimes things happen really quickly, and it's like, okay, we're mending it on the fly. That's because we're all flying a spaceship that is still building as we go through, and that's okay. That's how this world works. So we're really excited about what goes next. But in the next couple of hours, it's going to be some fun stuff happening. So I guess the only thing would be to say thank you for being with us. I have some exciting news in probably 2.5 hours time, especially for people who who love Holochain and Holo, and come with us, and just let's have some fun. Let's build some great stuff together. I'm really excited. And thank you, David, for having this and for hosting, being such an awesome host every time you do it.
Thank you. Well, and for those of you from the Holochain ecosystem who don't know ION that well, or whatever, that have been with us over the last 4 years, I mean, I'm taken a little bit back to the ICO month in whenever it was, April 2018, and it was such a different world back then. And so, there's so many tens of thousands of hours of code written and articles written and coordination and everything, getting Holochain to the place it is now. And it's a real pleasure as well to be, what an amazing first project to be launching within the Holochain ecosystem. And is one of the most beautiful things about it is, I think, as someone was saying before, it's like the Holochain ecosystem doesn't need to be ready in the way a normal blockchain platform would be for this to be possible. And but just thank you to Adam and the team for paving the way, and the community of the Holochain community, the ION community, everyone who believes in this. And this really isn't even the first day. This is just, none of us have even gotten started. So it's awesome to be here and see a little glimpse of what the future might look like. And it's going to be phenomenal to be making it together. So with everyone watching and everyone who's watching this in 2 years' time, seeing where some of these things all began. So thank you everyone for being on that journey with us and understanding and seeing the vision of people like Adam and others who are doing things with the technology that shifts the way we work and operate and live.
Big thank you to everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, David.
All right.
Well, see you in a couple of hours, everyone.